Have you ever watched a story that slowly pulls you in, and before you even realize it, you're completely lost inside its world? GOAT is one of those films that doesn't just entertain, it makes you feel every moment. From the very beginning, the movie builds a sense of mystery and tension, where every scene carries meaning and every character hides something deeper beneath the surface. As the story unfolds, you start to see how small decisions lead to unexpected consequences. The film takes you through intense moments, emotional turns, and powerful scenes that keep you hooked till the very end. It's not just about what happens, it's about why it happens and how it changes everything. The characters in this film are not simple. Each one has a purpose, a backstory, and a role that connects to the bigger picture. Their performances bring life to the story, making every scene feel real and impactful. But what truly makes GOAT stand out is the way it was created. The vision behind the story, the effort put into its production, and the ideas that inspired it. Every detail, from storytelling to execution, adds something unique to the overall experience. In this video, we're going to break down the complete story, explore the characters, and analyze everything from its creation to its success. And just to be clear, this is not a full movie or a movie screening. It's a detailed review and analysis made for learning and entertainment purposes. So let's begin and take a closer look at GOAT. In GOAT, the story follows Will Harris, a young GOAT who grows up idolizing a legendary floorball player named Jet Fillmore. And from the very beginning you can see that his dream is not casual, it is deeply personal and connected to his past, especially to his late mother who always believed he could become something bigger. As he grows older, the reality he faces is completely different from his dream. He is stuck working at a diner, struggling to pay rent, and living a life where survival matters more than ambition, and this contrast sets the emotional base of the film because it shows how far he is from where he wants to be. In an attempt to change his situation, he takes a risk, sells his prized sneakers, and challenges main attraction, one of the top players in the league. But even though he shows flashes of skill, he loses the match and ends up losing his home as well, forcing him to move in with his friends, and this moment pushes him to his lowest point where everything feels unstable again. Then the turning point comes when a clip of him breaking Maine's ankles goes viral, and this sudden attention brings him an unexpected opportunity as he gets signed by the struggling Vineland Thorns. But entering the team does not mean instant success because the team is already in a losing phase, and the biggest problem comes from Jet herself, the same player Will always looked up to, who does not accept him and openly disrespects him. And this creates a strong emotional conflict where his idol becomes his biggest obstacle. At first, Will is benched and treated like an outsider, but when Jet is forced to sit out due to a foul, he finally gets a chance to play, and instead of freezing under pressure, he delivers, scoring a winning point and giving the team their first victory, and this moment starts shifting how the team sees him. As the story moves forward, the relationship between Will and Jet begins to change, especially when Will takes her to the diner and shows her the people who still believe in her, and this scene is important because it breaks her ego and reconnects her with the purpose she had lost, while also revealing Will's emotional depth and his connection to his mother's dream. From here, the team begins to improve, they build momentum, start trusting each other, and move into a winning streak that takes them toward the playoffs. And this part feels earned because it is built on character growth rather than sudden change. The story then introduces a major conflict when it is revealed that the team owner Flo plans to sell the team for profit and cut everyone, and this information shakes the foundation of the team because it destroys their sense of security, and when Will reveals the truth during a critical moment, it creates tension within the group, especially when Jet reacts by playing selfishly, causing the team to lose trust in her despite winning the match. This leads to a breakdown where the team splits apart, and it shows that success without unity has no value. Before the final match, Jet realizes her mistake, confronts her fear of losing her legacy, and apologizes to Will, and this moment is important because it shows real character growth, not forced but earned through failure. Together they bring the team back, and the final match against the Magma becomes the ultimate test, where everything they learned is put into action. During the game, Jet gets seriously injured by Maine, and for a moment it feels like the team will fall apart again, but instead her presence continues to inspire them, and even from the bench she plays a crucial role in guiding the team. In the final moments, with pressure at its peak, a coordinated play is executed where Jet creates the opportunity and trusts Will with the final shot, and he delivers, securing the win and completing his journey from an unknown struggling player to the one who defines the outcome. The ending brings closure in a satisfying way as the team celebrates their championship, and it is revealed that the team will continue under new ownership, allowing their journey to move forward instead of ending abruptly. Overall, GOAT works because it balances sports action with emotional storytelling, showing that success is not just about talent but about trust, growth, and learning to work as part of something bigger than yourself. And Will's journey stands out because it is built step by step, from failure to confidence, from isolation to belonging, and from chasing a dream to finally living it. After the championship win, the story does not just stop at celebration, it shifts into showing what that victory actually means for Will and the team in a more grounded way. Because reaching the top is one thing, but understanding how to stay there is something completely different, and this is where the narrative adds depth without introducing a new conflict. Will's role inside the Thorns changes immediately. He is no longer the unknown rookie who needed a chance. He becomes a central player whose decisions and performance now carry weight for the entire team. And this shift is important because it shows how quickly expectations grow once success is achieved. At the same time, his personality does not suddenly change. He remains calm, focused, and quiet, but now there is a clear confidence behind his actions that was not there before, and this balance keeps his character believable. The bond between him and Jet also evolves into something stronger, not based on rivalry anymore but on mutual respect, and you can see that she trusts him in situations where earlier she would have taken control herself, and this change reflects her own growth as well. The team dynamic feels more connected. Archie, Lenny, Olivia, and Moto no longer operate as individuals trying to prove themselves. They function as a unit that understands each other's roles, and this unity becomes their biggest strength moving forward. The environment around them also shifts because now they are not chasing recognition, they are expected to defend it, and that adds a different kind of pressure that is less visible but more demanding over time. Will adapts to this by staying focused on his process instead of getting distracted by attention or expectations, and this shows that his mindset has matured beyond just achieving success. Another important detail here is how the film continues to show the influence of Will's past without repeating it. His struggles, his mother's dream, and his earlier failures all remain part of how he thinks and makes decisions, and this gives his character depth without needing flashbacks or heavy reminders. Jet also carries her own lessons forward. She no longer plays for ego or legacy alone. She plays with awareness of the team around her, and this keeps her character consistent while still showing change. The film avoids turning this phase into a new dramatic arc. Instead, it focuses on continuity, showing how growth is maintained after success, and this approach keeps the story realistic. The pacing remains steady. There are no sudden jumps or forced intensity, just a clear progression of how the characters carry their development forward. What stands out most is how the idea of belonging becomes fully settled. Will is no longer searching for where he fits. He knows his place and carries that confidence into every situation, and this internal stability becomes the foundation of everything he does. As the story continues in this direction, it reinforces that real success is not defined by a single win but by the ability to stay consistent, stay grounded, and keep improving even when the goal has already been reached. And this gives the narrative a strong sense of continuation while still feeling complete. With the title secured and the spotlight firmly on the Thorns, the film leans into what it means to operate when every move is studied and every opponent prepares specifically for you, and this shift matters because it forces Will to rely on understanding rather than surprise, and the story shows that his edge now comes from reading patterns, controlling tempo, and making clean decisions under tight margins. He studies how defenses react to his first step, how spacing opens and closes, and how small changes in timing create bigger advantages, and this attention to detail becomes his main tool. Jet adjusts alongside him, choosing when to draw pressure and when to release it, and their coordination becomes the center of the team's identity, not based on individual highlight moments but on sequences that build toward the right option. Archie anchors the physical side, setting the tone in difficult stretches. Olivia keeps the floor balanced with smart positioning. Lenny stretches space with consistent movement, and Moto links everything with reads that connect one action to the next. And this structure shows a group that understands roles without needing constant direction. The coaching also becomes more precise, focusing on preparation and in-game adjustments rather than motivation. And this reflects a team that has moved beyond basic cohesion into refined execution. Off the court, Will manages attention by keeping his routine simple, training with purpose, resting with discipline, and avoiding distractions that could pull him away from the process. And this choice reinforces that his growth is built on consistency rather than bursts of effort. Jet's leadership settles into a steady presence. She communicates clearly, sets expectations through action, and supports younger players without losing her own focus. And this shows that her earlier fear has been replaced by control. Opponents begin to challenge them in different ways, sometimes speeding the game up, sometimes slowing it down, sometimes crowding space, and sometimes forcing difficult decisions late, but the team responds by staying connected, trusting the system they have built, and making the next correct play instead of chasing quick solutions. Will's decision-making becomes the quiet driver of these responses. He identifies where pressure is coming from, shifts position to create an outlet, and keeps the flow moving so that no single moment defines the outcome. And this reflects maturity that does not need to be announced. The film keeps the tone grounded by showing these changes through behavior rather than speeches, letting the audience see how habits shape results over time. There is no need for a sudden crisis because the tension comes from maintaining a standard in an environment that is always adjusting, and this makes the progression feel real. The idea of belonging remains internal and stable. Will carries it into every game, every practice, and every interaction, and this allows him to perform without hesitation or doubt. As the season continues, the narrative reinforces that lasting success is built on clarity, timing, and trust, and that a team becomes difficult to break not because it avoids pressure, but because it knows how to move through it without losing structure, and this keeps the story focused, connected, and meaningful as it moves forward. As the season progresses, the narrative leans into how the Thorns deal with adaptation from opponents who have now studied every detail of their play, and this adds a fresh layer because the advantage they once had begins to shrink, forcing them to evolve instead of relying on what already worked. Will's role becomes even more critical here because he is no longer just executing plays, he is adjusting them in real time, reading how defenses react and changing his approach without breaking the team's rhythm. And this level of awareness shows how far he has come from the early stages of his journey. He begins to control pace more deliberately, slowing things down when pressure builds and accelerating when space opens. And this ability to manage tempo becomes one of his strongest qualities. Jet continues to support this dynamic by drawing attention at the right moments and trusting Will to make the final decision, and this balance between them keeps the team stable even when situations become difficult. The rest of the team also adapts. Archie uses his physical presence more strategically, Olivia improves her positioning to create consistent options, Lenny focuses on stretching defenses, and Moto continues to connect everything through smart movement. And this shows that growth is not limited to one player, it spreads across the entire system. The coaching becomes more focused on adjustments, small tactical changes that respond to what is happening rather than what was planned. And this reflects a team that understands how to operate under pressure without losing structure. Off the court, Will maintains discipline by sticking to his routine, avoiding distractions, and staying focused on improvement rather than recognition, and this keeps his mindset steady even as attention around him grows. Jet's leadership continues to mature. She no longer leads through intensity alone, she leads through clarity, making sure everyone understands their role and stays aligned with the team's objective, and this strengthens the overall dynamic. Opponents try different strategies to break their rhythm, sometimes forcing isolation, sometimes crowding space, sometimes targeting key players, but the Thorns respond by staying connected, trusting each other, and making decisions that keep the flow intact rather than forcing outcomes, and this consistency becomes their biggest strength. Will's decision-making remains the central factor. He reads pressure, creates options, and keeps the system balanced, and this shows a level of control that defines his character at this stage. The film continues to present all of this in a grounded way, without exaggeration, focusing on progression rather than sudden conflict, and this keeps the narrative smooth and realistic. The idea of belonging remains fully internal for Will. It no longer depends on circumstances, it exists in how he carries himself and how he interacts with the team, and this stability allows him to perform without hesitation. As everything continues to move forward, the story reinforces that real growth is not about staying ahead of others, it is about staying consistent while everything around you changes, and this keeps the journey engaging without repeating earlier beats or introducing unnecessary drama. As the season moves into its final stretch, the focus shifts toward how the Thorns prepare for moments where margins become very small and every possession carries weight. And this is where their earlier growth is tested through discipline rather than pressure, because the difference now comes from execution under tight conditions instead of big plays. Will takes on a more structured role in how the team approaches these moments. He studies patterns from previous games, identifies where defenses tighten, and plans how to create space without forcing actions. And this preparation becomes visible in how calmly he handles late situations. Jet supports this by managing attention on the floor, drawing defenders when needed and releasing the ball at the right time. And this coordination between them becomes the core of their strategy. Archie sets the tone physically in critical stretches, Olivia keeps spacing clean so options remain open, Lenny continues to stretch coverage with movement, and Moto connects plays with quick reads that keep everything flowing, and this collective understanding allows them to operate without confusion even when pressure increases. The coaching staff refines their approach, focusing on clear communication, quick adjustments, and maintaining structure when opponents try to disrupt rhythm, and this keeps the team aligned. Off the court, Will keeps his routine unchanged, training with purpose, reviewing details, and staying away from distractions, and this consistency protects his focus as attention grows. Jet maintains a steady presence, guiding without over-controlling, and this balance helps the team stay composed in difficult moments. Opponents bring varied strategies, sometimes slowing the pace to limit opportunities, sometimes increasing pressure to force mistakes. But the Thorns respond by staying patient, trusting their system, and making the next correct decision instead of chasing quick results. Will's decision-making becomes the quiet anchor in these phases. He recognizes where pressure is building, shifts position to create a safe option, and keeps the flow stable so that no single moment becomes overwhelming. And this shows a level of maturity that defines his journey. The film keeps the tone grounded by showing these adjustments through behavior rather than speeches, allowing the progression to feel natural. The idea of belonging remains internal and steady, giving Will the confidence to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything builds toward the closing stages, the narrative reinforces that success at this level depends on clarity, timing, and trust, and that a team maintains its strength by staying connected when conditions become tight. And this keeps the story focused, continuous, and meaningful without repeating earlier patterns. As the closing stretch tightens, the film centers on how the Thorns handle moments where one decision can shift the entire game. And this is where their identity shows through precision rather than intensity, because they do not chase big plays, they build them through clean sequences that hold together under pressure. Will becomes the quiet controller of these sequences. He scans the floor, reads where the defense is leaning, and chooses the option that keeps balance instead of forcing a highlight, and this approach keeps the team stable when the pace rises. Jet complements this by managing attention, stepping forward to draw coverage, and then releasing it at the exact moment space opens, and their coordination turns into a rhythm that others can rely on. Archie provides physical stability in tight stretches, absorbing contact and protecting space so the structure does not break. Olivia maintains disciplined positioning to keep passing lanes available. Lenny stretches coverage with constant movement that prevents the defense from settling, and Moto links actions with quick decisions that connect one play to the next without delay. And this collective execution shows a team that trusts its system fully. The coaching staff focuses on clarity, calling simple adjustments that reinforce structure instead of adding complexity, and this keeps everyone aligned when time becomes limited. Off the court, Will keeps his preparation unchanged, reviewing details, repeating habits, and staying away from distractions, and this consistency allows him to enter critical moments with a clear mind. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates with purpose, supports without over-controlling, and ensures that the group stays connected, and this balance strengthens their response under pressure. Opponents try to disrupt timing by changing pace, crowding space, or isolating key players, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, trusting the next correct action, and avoiding rushed decisions, and this patience becomes their advantage. In late sequences, Will's choices anchor everything. He identifies the safest outlet, shifts position to create a better angle, and keeps the flow intact so the team can finish plays with control, and this reflects maturity that does not need to be announced. The film keeps these moments grounded, showing execution through behavior and spacing rather than speeches, which makes the progression feel real. The sense of belonging remains internal and stable for Will, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this confidence spreads across the team. As the final moments approach, the narrative reinforces that outcomes at this level come from clarity, timing, and trust held over many small decisions, and that a team stays strong by remaining connected when everything around it tries to pull it apart, and this keeps the story focused, continuous, and meaningful without repeating earlier beats. With the final moments approaching, the film narrows its focus on execution when every second matters and there is no room for hesitation. And this is where the Thorns rely completely on the structure they have built rather than emotion or urgency. Will steps into this phase with complete clarity. He does not rush the pace or force a decision. He reads how the defense shifts, identifies the smallest opening, and positions himself to keep the play alive. And this ability to stay composed becomes the difference between control and collapse. Jet supports this by managing pressure around him, stepping into space to draw attention and then releasing it at the right time. And this coordination ensures that the system stays intact even when everything tightens. Archie holds the physical line, preventing disruption in key areas. Olivia keeps spacing clean so that passing options remain available. Lenny continues to stretch coverage with movement that creates space. And Moto connects every action through quick reads that maintain flow, and this collective effort shows a team that trusts each other completely. The coaching remains focused on clarity, calling only what is necessary and avoiding anything that could break rhythm, and this reinforces discipline under pressure. Off the court, Will's preparation shows its value. His routine, focus, and attention to detail allow him to enter these moments without doubt, and this confidence reflects the full journey he has gone through. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates clearly, supports without taking control away, and ensures that everyone stays aligned, and this balance keeps the team connected. Opponents increase pressure, trying to force mistakes through speed or crowding, but the Thorns respond by slowing down when needed, keeping their spacing, and trusting the next correct decision rather than reacting impulsively, and this patience becomes their strength. In the final sequence, Will's decision-making anchors everything. He recognizes where pressure is coming from, adjusts his position to create a clear path, and executes without hesitation, and this moment reflects the complete evolution of his character. The film presents this without exaggeration, focusing on movement, timing, and connection instead of dramatic dialogue, and this keeps the scene grounded. The sense of belonging that once drove Will is now fully internal. It supports every action he takes, and this stability allows him to perform without fear. As the game reaches its conclusion, the narrative reinforces that success at this level comes from control, trust, and the ability to stay connected when everything is at its most intense, and this gives the story a strong and satisfying continuation without repeating earlier patterns. With the clock winding down and the margin razor thin, the film shows how the Thorns rely on discipline more than urgency, and this is where their identity is fully visible because nothing they do is rushed or forced. Every action follows a clear sequence that they trust. Will controls the tempo in a quiet way. He slows the moment just enough to read the defense, notices how the coverage shifts a step too far to one side, and adjusts his position to keep a clean option available, and this calm control keeps the play from breaking. Jet times her movement to draw attention at the right second, creating a gap that only exists for a brief moment, and instead of holding the ball she releases it immediately, trusting the system they have built together. Archie absorbs pressure at the point of contact, protecting space so the structure does not collapse. Olivia holds her position to maintain a reliable passing lane. Lenny continues to move without the ball to stretch the defense and prevent it from closing in, and Moto connects the sequence with a quick decision that keeps everything flowing without delay. And this coordinated execution shows a team that understands how to function under maximum pressure. The coaching stays focused on simplicity, reinforcing what already works instead of adding complexity, and this keeps everyone aligned when time is limited. Off the court, Will's preparation is evident in how he handles the moment. His routine has trained him to stay clear and composed, and this allows him to act without hesitation. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates with purpose and ensures that no one loses focus, and this stability strengthens the group. The opponent pushes harder, trying to disrupt timing by speeding up the pace and crowding space. But the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience becomes their advantage. In the final sequence, Will reads the pressure, shifts into the open lane that appears for a split second, and completes the play with precision, and this moment reflects the full arc of his journey from uncertainty to control. The film presents this with grounded detail, focusing on movement, timing, and connection rather than dramatic emphasis, and this makes the payoff feel earned. The sense of belonging that once drove him is now a constant foundation, supporting every decision he makes, and this internal stability allows him to perform at his highest level. As the sequence resolves, the narrative reinforces that success at this stage comes from clarity, trust, and the ability to stay connected when everything tightens, and this keeps the story focused, continuous, and satisfying without repeating earlier beats. With the final sequence resolved and the result secured, the film shifts into what that moment actually means beyond the scoreboard. And this is where the story finds its most grounded tone because it focuses on how the team absorbs the outcome and carries it forward instead of treating it as a single peak. Will does not react with noise or exaggeration. He takes a breath, looks around, and you can see that the moment lands in a quiet way, as something understood rather than celebrated loudly, and this reflects how far he has come from the uncertainty he started with. Jet's response is steady as well. She acknowledges the result but stays focused on the group, making sure everyone is aligned and connected, and this shows that her leadership has fully shifted from individual recognition to collective stability. Archie relaxes his stance but remains aware. Olivia keeps the structure even in celebration. Lenny continues moving through space without losing rhythm, and Moto holds the connection between everyone. And this detail shows that their identity does not switch off when the pressure ends, it carries through every moment. The coaching staff reinforces this by keeping communication simple, making sure the team transitions smoothly from high intensity back into control, and this maintains their consistency. Off the court, Will returns to his routine without change. He trains, he reviews, and he keeps his focus on improvement, and this decision shows that he understands success as part of a longer process rather than a final point. Jet supports this approach, guiding without controlling, and allowing the team to maintain its balance naturally. The environment around them reacts with attention and expectation, but the Thorns do not let that shift their approach. They stay within their structure, and this keeps their performance stable over time. What stands out here is that the film does not create a new challenge or conflict. Instead, it shows how the absence of disruption becomes a test in itself, because maintaining focus without pressure requires the same level of discipline. Will continues to read situations clearly, make efficient decisions, and support the flow of the system, and this shows that his growth is not dependent on big moments. It exists in every action he takes. The sense of belonging that once defined his motivation is now fully internal. It supports him without needing reinforcement, and this allows him to move forward with clarity. As the narrative settles into this phase, it reinforces that true success is not about reaching a single moment but about maintaining consistency after that moment has passed, and this gives the story a complete and grounded continuation that feels earned without repeating earlier beats or forcing additional tension. As the momentum settles into a steady rhythm, the film focuses on how the Thorns keep their edge when attention grows and opponents adjust in quieter ways, and this is where discipline shows through habits rather than big plays. Will sharpens his preparation, reviewing small details from previous games, noting how defenders shift their weight, how passing lanes open for a split second, and how timing changes when the pace slows, and this attention to detail becomes his main advantage. He steps onto the court with a clear plan but stays flexible, ready to adjust without breaking flow, and this balance keeps his decisions clean even when the situation changes. Jet continues to guide the team with calm authority, choosing when to take control and when to step back, and this keeps the group aligned without creating dependency. Archie anchors the physical side with controlled strength, Olivia maintains spacing with discipline so options remain available, Lenny keeps movement active to stretch coverage, and Moto links every sequence with quick reads that connect one action to the next, and this structure shows a unit that trusts its system. The coaching staff focuses on clarity, reinforcing what works and trimming anything unnecessary, and this keeps the approach simple and effective under pressure. Off the court, Will protects his routine, training with purpose, resting with intention, and avoiding distractions, and this consistency allows him to carry focus into every game. Opponents try to disrupt timing by changing pace or crowding space, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, keeping their spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience becomes their strength. In late moments, Will's decision-making anchors the team. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts to create a safer angle, and keeps the flow stable so the play can develop naturally, and this reflects maturity that has grown over time. The film presents this phase through behavior and execution rather than speeches, keeping everything grounded and realistic. The sense of belonging remains internal for Will, giving him confidence without distraction, and this stability spreads across the team. As the story continues, it reinforces that long-term success comes from clarity, timing, and trust held across many small decisions, and that a team stays strong by remaining connected when everything around it tries to shift, and this keeps the narrative focused, continuous, and meaningful without repeating earlier patterns. As the schedule tightens and every game begins to feel like a test of discipline rather than talent, the film shows how the Thorns maintain their identity through small, precise decisions that add up over time, and this is where their earlier growth proves its value because nothing they do relies on surprise anymore, it relies on control. Will approaches each game with a clear plan but stays ready to adjust. He studies how defenders react to his first move, how quickly they recover, and where space opens for just a moment, and this allows him to operate with accuracy even when pressure increases. He does not chase difficult plays, he builds them step by step, keeping the flow steady so the team can stay connected, and this approach keeps mistakes low and efficiency high. Jet continues to guide the tempo, stepping into pressure when needed and releasing it at the right time, and this balance between control and trust keeps the system stable. Archie handles physical pressure without losing structure, Olivia maintains clean spacing so options remain open, Lenny keeps movement active to stretch the defense, and Moto connects sequences with quick reads that prevent delays, and this coordination shows a team that understands how to function together without hesitation. The coaching remains focused on clarity, reinforcing simple adjustments that keep the system intact, and this prevents confusion when situations become tight. Off the court, Will stays consistent with his routine. He trains, reviews, and avoids distractions, and this discipline allows him to carry the same level of focus into every game. Opponents continue to adjust, sometimes slowing the pace to limit opportunities, sometimes increasing pressure to force mistakes, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, trusting their structure, and making the next correct decision instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes their advantage. In critical moments, Will's awareness anchors everything. He reads where pressure is building, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the play alive until the right option appears, and this shows a level of maturity that defines his role. The film presents this progression in a grounded way, focusing on execution rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains fully internal for Will, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything continues to build, the story reinforces that lasting success comes from consistency, timing, and trust maintained across many small actions, and that a team remains strong by staying connected when conditions become demanding, and this keeps the journey continuous and meaningful without repeating earlier patterns. As the season reaches its closing phase and every possession carries weight, the film shifts its attention to how the Thorns preserve clarity when time shrinks and options narrow, and this is where their identity shows through patience rather than urgency. Will takes control of the tempo without forcing it. He reads how defenders position their bodies, notices when a gap forms for a brief moment, and adjusts his movement to keep a clean option available, and this level of awareness allows the team to stay composed when pressure builds. He does not rush decisions, he sequences them, keeping the play alive until the right opening appears, and this approach prevents breakdowns in tight moments. Jet supports this by managing attention on the floor, stepping into pressure to draw coverage and then releasing it at the exact moment space opens. And this coordination between them becomes the core of their late-game execution. Archie provides stability through controlled strength, protecting space so the structure does not collapse. Olivia maintains disciplined positioning to keep passing lanes clear. Lenny stretches the defense with constant movement that creates room, and Moto connects every action with quick reads that maintain flow. And this collective effort shows a group that trusts its system fully. The coaching staff keeps communication simple and precise, reinforcing structure rather than adding complexity, and this keeps everyone aligned when time becomes limited. Off the court, Will remains consistent with his routine, training with purpose, reviewing details, and staying focused, and this discipline allows him to enter critical moments with a clear mindset. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates with clarity and supports the group without over-controlling, and this balance strengthens the team. Opponents try to disrupt timing by changing pace or crowding space, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience becomes their advantage. In late sequences, Will's decisions anchor everything. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the flow stable so the team can complete plays with control, and this reflects a level of maturity that defines his journey. The film presents these moments in a grounded way, focusing on movement, timing, and connection rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains internal for Will, giving him confidence without distraction, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything moves toward the final moments, the story reinforces that success at this level depends on clarity, timing, and trust maintained through many small decisions, and that a team stays strong by remaining connected when everything tightens, and this keeps the narrative focused, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. As the final stretch tightens to its last possessions, the film concentrates on how the Thorns protect their structure when every option narrows and time becomes the main opponent, and this is where their identity shows through calm execution rather than urgency. Will controls the sequence with clear intent. He scans the floor, notices how the defense leans a step too far, and shifts his position to keep a clean passing angle open, and this prevents the play from collapsing under pressure. He avoids forcing a move, instead he builds the moment step by step, keeping the flow intact until the right opening appears, and this patience allows the team to stay connected. Jet times her involvement with precision, stepping forward to draw attention and then releasing it at the exact second space opens, and this coordination between them keeps the system balanced. Archie holds the physical line, absorbing contact so the structure does not break. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing to keep options available. Lenny stretches the defense with constant movement that creates room, and Moto links every action with quick reads that maintain rhythm, and this collective effort shows a group operating with full trust in each other. The coaching remains focused on clarity, reinforcing simple adjustments that keep everyone aligned, and this avoids confusion when the margin for error is minimal. Off the court, Will's routine shows its value. His preparation allows him to stay composed and act without hesitation, and this reflects the journey he has taken to reach this point. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates clearly and supports the team without over-control, and this balance strengthens their response. The opponent increases pressure, trying to disrupt timing by speeding up the pace and crowding space, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience becomes their strength. In the closing sequence, Will reads the pressure, shifts into the small window that opens, and completes the play with precision, and this moment reflects the full arc of his development from uncertainty to control. The film presents this with grounded detail, focusing on movement, timing, and connection rather than dramatic emphasis, and this makes the outcome feel earned. The sense of belonging that once drove him is now fully internal, supporting every decision he makes, and this stability allows him to perform at his highest level. As the sequence resolves, the narrative reinforces that success at this level comes from clarity, trust, and the ability to stay connected when everything tightens, and this keeps the story focused, continuous, and meaningful without repeating earlier patterns. As the final whistle fades and the arena settles, the film stays with the team in a quieter space where the meaning of the win becomes clear through what they do next rather than how they celebrate. And this is where the story shows its strongest sense of control because nothing breaks their rhythm. Will steps away from the noise with the same focus he carried into the game. He replays the last sequence in his mind, checks the small decisions that led to the outcome, and stores those details as part of his process. And this habit shows that he treats success as information to build on, not a moment to hold on to. Jet keeps the group aligned. She acknowledges the result but immediately guides everyone back into structure, reminding them through action that consistency is what protects what they have achieved, and this steady leadership keeps the team grounded. Archie eases out of contact without losing awareness. Olivia maintains spacing even in transition. Lenny continues moving to keep options open, and Moto holds the connection between players so the flow never drops, and this continuity shows that their identity carries beyond pressure. The coaching staff keeps communication simple, reinforcing what worked and trimming anything unnecessary, and this clarity prevents drift after the high point. Off the court, Will returns to his routine without change. He trains with purpose, reviews with focus, and protects his time from distraction, and this discipline ensures that attention from outside does not alter his approach. Jet mirrors this mindset, guiding without control and trusting the system they have built, and this balance allows the team to operate without tension. The environment around them grows louder with expectation, but the Thorns respond by narrowing their focus, keeping preparation consistent, and treating each next game as a continuation of the same process, and this approach stabilizes performance. Opponents adjust with new looks and tighter coverage, but the team answers with patience, maintaining spacing, choosing the next correct action, and refusing to rush outcomes, and this patience becomes their edge. In practice and in games, Will's decisions anchor everything. He reads pressure early, shifts to create a safer angle, and keeps the sequence alive until the best option appears, and this shows a level of maturity that defines his role now. The film presents all of this through behavior and timing rather than speeches, keeping the tone grounded and realistic. The sense of belonging remains internal for Will. It supports him without distraction and allows him to perform with clarity, and this stability spreads across the team. As the story continues in this direction, it reinforces that what sustains success is not a single moment but a chain of correct decisions held together by trust and discipline, and that a team remains strong by staying connected when attention rises and conditions shift, and this keeps the narrative focused, continuous, and meaningful without repeating earlier beats. As the narrative continues, the film shifts toward how the Thorns handle the phase where attention stays high for longer periods and expectations do not drop, and this is where their discipline becomes the main factor that keeps everything stable. Will approaches this stage with the same clarity he showed in critical moments. He does not allow the outside noise to change his routine. He continues to train with purpose, review details, and focus on small improvements, and this consistency protects his performance from fluctuation. He reads the game earlier now, noticing patterns before they fully form, adjusting his position to create space, and keeping the flow intact even when defenses tighten, and this level of awareness allows him to operate with control regardless of the situation. Jet maintains her steady leadership. She does not try to dominate every moment. Instead, she guides the team by choosing when to step forward and when to support, and this balance keeps the group connected. Archie continues to anchor the physical side with controlled strength. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing so that options remain available. Lenny stretches coverage through constant movement, and Moto links everything together with quick decisions that keep the rhythm smooth. And this collective effort shows a team that understands how to function without hesitation. The coaching remains focused on clarity, reinforcing what works and making small adjustments that keep the system efficient, and this prevents unnecessary complications. Off the court, Will stays grounded. He avoids distractions, manages his time carefully, and keeps his attention on improvement rather than recognition, and this mindset allows him to maintain focus over long periods. Opponents continue to adjust their approach, sometimes slowing the pace, sometimes increasing pressure, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes their strength. In key moments, Will's decisions continue to anchor the team. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the sequence alive until the right opportunity appears, and this reflects a maturity that defines his role. The film presents this progression in a grounded way, focusing on behavior, timing, and connection rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains fully internal for Will, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything continues forward, the story reinforces that lasting success depends on clarity, timing, and trust maintained across many small decisions, and that a team remains strong by staying connected when conditions continue to change, and this keeps the narrative smooth, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. As the narrative moves forward, the film centers on how the thorns sustain sharpness when routines become familiar and the risk of complacency grows, and this is where discipline turns into the defining factor that keeps their level steady. Will approaches this phase with intent. He adds small variations to his preparation, studies new patterns from recent games, and focuses on refining timing rather than increasing effort, and this approach allows him to improve without disrupting his rhythm. On the court, he anticipates earlier, recognizing defensive shifts before they fully develop, and positions himself to keep options open, and this early reading reduces pressure on every possession. Jet supports this progression by maintaining a balanced presence, stepping into control when needed and stepping back to let the system function, and this keeps the team aligned without overdependence on one player. Archie continues to provide controlled physical stability. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing so that passing lanes remain clear. Lenny stretches coverage with consistent movement, and Moto connects sequences with quick, accurate decisions. And this collective structure shows a team that operates through understanding rather than reaction. The coaching staff reinforces clarity, focusing on small adjustments that sharpen execution while keeping the system simple, and this prevents confusion as opponents change their approach. Off the court, Will remains consistent with his routine, protecting his focus, managing his time, and avoiding distractions, and this discipline ensures that his performance does not fluctuate. Opponents test them in different ways, sometimes increasing pace to create mistakes, sometimes slowing the game to limit options, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes a constant advantage. In critical moments, Will's decisions continue to anchor the team. He identifies where pressure builds, shifts to create a safe angle, and keeps the flow stable so that the play can develop naturally, and this reflects a level of maturity that defines his journey. The film presents this phase in a grounded way, focusing on execution and behavior rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains fully internal for Will, giving him confidence without distraction, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything continues, the story reinforces that sustained success comes from continuous refinement, clear timing, and trust maintained across every action, and that a team remains strong by staying connected even when routines become familiar, and this keeps the narrative smooth, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. As the season advances into its most demanding stretch, the film turns its focus to how the Thorns handle accumulated pressure without letting it disrupt their structure, and this is where their discipline shows through how they manage energy, timing, and decision-making across longer periods rather than single moments. Will becomes even more deliberate in how he approaches each game. He studies not just opponents but his own patterns, identifies where small improvements can be made, and adjusts his approach without changing the core of his game, and this allows him to maintain consistency even as conditions change. On the court, he reads situations earlier, positions himself to create clean options, and keeps the flow stable so that no single moment becomes overwhelming, and this level of control reflects how far his awareness has developed. Jet continues to guide the team with calm authority, choosing when to step forward and when to support, and this balance keeps the group aligned and prevents unnecessary pressure from building. Archie maintains physical control without losing structure, Olivia keeps spacing discipline so that passing lanes remain open, Lenny stretches coverage through constant movement, and Moto connects sequences with quick decisions that keep everything flowing, and this coordination shows a team that trusts its system fully. The coaching staff focuses on clarity, reinforcing what works and making precise adjustments that improve efficiency without adding complexity, and this keeps the approach simple under pressure. Off the court, Will protects his routine, managing his time carefully, avoiding distractions, and staying focused on improvement, and this discipline allows him to carry a clear mindset into every game. Opponents continue to adapt, sometimes increasing pressure to force mistakes, sometimes slowing the pace to limit opportunities, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes their strength. In critical moments, Will's decision-making anchors everything. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the sequence alive until the right opportunity appears, and this reflects a maturity that defines his role. The film presents this progression in a grounded way, focusing on behavior and execution rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains fully internal for Will, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything continues to build, the story reinforces that sustained success depends on clarity, timing, and trust maintained across many small decisions, and that a team remains strong by staying connected when conditions become more demanding, and this keeps the narrative smooth, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. As the story moves into the final run where outcomes begin to carry lasting weight, the film focuses on how the Thorns preserve clarity when every decision is magnified and the room for error is minimal, and this is where their identity shows through control instead of urgency. Will approaches these moments with a clear process. He reads the floor before the play develops, notices how defenders shift their balance, and positions himself to keep a clean option available, and this early recognition prevents pressure from building. He does not chase difficult plays, he builds them through sequence, keeping the ball moving and the spacing intact until the right opening appears, and this patience keeps the team connected. Jet supports this by managing attention, stepping into coverage when needed and releasing it at the exact moment space opens, and this coordination keeps their structure balanced. Archie holds the physical line, absorbing contact without breaking shape. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing to keep passing lanes open. Lenny stretches coverage with constant movement, and Moto links every action with quick reads that maintain rhythm, and this collective execution shows a group that trusts its system fully. The coaching staff keeps communication simple and precise, reinforcing structure rather than adding complexity, and this keeps everyone aligned when pressure increases. Off the court, Will remains consistent with his routine. He trains with purpose, reviews details, and avoids distractions, and this discipline allows him to enter critical moments with a clear mindset. Jet's leadership remains steady. She communicates with clarity and supports the group without over-control, and this balance strengthens their response. Opponents try to disrupt timing by changing pace or crowding space, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience becomes their advantage. In late sequences, Will's decisions anchor everything. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the flow stable so the play can develop naturally, and this reflects a level of maturity that defines his journey. The film presents these moments in a grounded way, focusing on movement, timing, and connection rather than dramatic emphasis, and this keeps the narrative realistic. The sense of belonging remains fully internal for Will, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. As everything builds toward the closing point, the story reinforces that success at this level depends on clarity, timing, and trust maintained across many small decisions, and that a team remains strong by staying connected when conditions tighten, and this keeps the narrative focused, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. Will reaches a point where the game slows down for him even when everything around him speeds up, and this is where his growth becomes fully visible because he no longer depends on moments, he controls them. His decisions come from reading patterns early, noticing how defenders shift their weight, how space opens for a fraction of a second, and how timing can change the entire outcome, and this allows him to operate with precision without forcing anything. He does not chase big plays, he builds them step by step, keeping the ball moving, maintaining spacing, and guiding the sequence until the right option appears, and this patience becomes his biggest strength. Jet works in perfect sync with him. She understands when to draw attention and when to release it, and this balance between them creates a flow that opponents struggle to break. Their connection is no longer about individual skill, it is about trust, and that trust keeps the system stable under pressure. The team around them reflects the same level of understanding. Archie controls physical pressure instead of reacting to it. Choosing when to engage and when to hold position, Olivia maintains clean spacing so every option stays open. Lenny stretches the floor with constant movement that prevents the defense from settling, and Moto links everything together with fast, accurate decisions that keep the rhythm intact. And this coordination turns the team into a unit that does not rely on a single player. The coach keeps everything simple and clear, reinforcing structure instead of adding complexity, and this allows the team to stay focused even in tight situations. Opponents adjust constantly, trying to disrupt timing, crowd space, and force mistakes, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, trusting their structure, and making the next correct decision instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes the difference. Will's role becomes central in these moments. He reads where pressure builds, shifts to create a safer angle, and keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears, and this level of awareness defines his character now. He no longer hesitates, he does not panic, he stays composed and executes with clarity, and this shows how far he has come from his earlier struggles. Off the court, his mindset stays unchanged. He follows his routine, trains with purpose, reviews details, and avoids distractions, and this discipline keeps his performance stable over time. Jet continues to lead with balance, supporting the team without controlling every moment, and this allows everyone to stay connected. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but the team narrows its focus, staying within its process, and this keeps their performance consistent. The sense of belonging that once drove Will is now fully internal. It supports every decision he makes and allows him to perform without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. Everything he does reflects clarity, timing, and control, and this is what defines his final form as a player. The story continues without forcing a dramatic shift, showing that real growth is not about one final moment. It is about maintaining a level where every action connects, every decision has purpose, and every situation is handled with control, and this keeps the narrative strong, continuous, and meaningful without repetition. Will moves forward with a level of control that no longer depends on pace or pressure, and this is where his development feels complete because every decision he makes connects directly to the flow of the game. He reads movement before it happens, adjusts his positioning with precision, and keeps every sequence stable without forcing anything, and this allows him to manage even the most crowded situations without losing clarity. Jet continues to match this rhythm, stepping into moments where attention needs to shift and stepping back when space needs to open, and this balance between them keeps the system flexible while still controlled, making it difficult for opponents to predict their next move. The rest of the team operates with the same understanding. Archie controls contact and protects structure, Olivia maintains disciplined spacing so passing options stay open, Lenny stretches coverage with constant movement, and Moto connects plays through quick, accurate decisions that prevent delays, and this coordination turns every possession into a connected sequence rather than isolated actions. The coach keeps instructions simple and direct, reinforcing what works and removing anything unnecessary, which allows the team to stay aligned when situations tighten. Opponents continue to apply pressure in different ways, increasing speed, crowding space, and targeting key players, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining spacing, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this consistency becomes their strongest advantage. Will's decision-making remains the core of everything. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts into the safest position, and keeps the play alive until the best option appears, and this shows a level of maturity that defines his role at this stage. Off the court, he stays disciplined, following his routine, training with purpose, and avoiding distractions, and this keeps his focus steady over time. While Jet continues to guide the team with calm authority, ensuring that everyone remains connected without relying on control, the environment around them continues to grow with expectations, but the team stays within its process, and this protects their performance from outside influence. the sense of belonging within Will remains internal and constant, giving him confidence in every situation and allowing him to perform without hesitation, and this stability spreads across the team, showing that their success is built not on moments but on a continuous flow of correct decisions, clear timing, and trust that holds everything together even when conditions become demanding. Will now operates with a level of awareness where every movement on the court feels connected before it even happens. And this is where his control becomes the defining element of the team's performance because he no longer reacts to pressure. He manages it by reading how space shifts and how defenders position themselves, allowing him to keep every sequence stable without forcing anything. And this creates a flow where the game feels structured rather than chaotic. Jet continues to align perfectly with this rhythm, stepping into moments where attention needs to shift and releasing it when space opens, and this balance between them keeps the system fluid while still controlled, making it difficult for opponents to predict their next move. The rest of the team reflects the same understanding. Archie handles physical contact with control instead of reaction. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing that keeps passing lanes clear. Lenny stretches coverage through constant movement that prevents defenses from settling, and Moto connects every play through quick, accurate decisions that keep the rhythm intact. And this coordination turns every possession into a connected sequence rather than isolated actions. The coach reinforces clarity by focusing on what works and removing unnecessary complexity, allowing the team to stay aligned even in tight situations. Opponents continue to apply pressure through different strategies, increasing pace, crowding space, and targeting key players, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining their structure, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this patience becomes their strongest advantage. Will's decision-making anchors everything. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts into positions that create safer options, and keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears. And this shows a level of maturity that defines his role at this stage. Off the court, his discipline remains unchanged. He follows his routine, trains with focus, and avoids distractions, and this consistency keeps his performance stable over time while Jet continues to guide the team with calm authority, ensuring everyone stays connected without over-control. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but the team narrows its focus and stays within its process, protecting their performance from outside influence. The sense of belonging within Will is now fully internal, giving him confidence in every situation and allowing him to perform without hesitation, and this stability spreads across the team, showing that their success is built on clarity, timing, and trust maintained across every action, keeping the narrative strong, continuous, and free from repetition. Will moves deeper into a phase where control is no longer something he switches on during key moments. It becomes constant across every possession. And this is where the film shows the most refined version of his growth because nothing feels forced. Everything connects through timing, awareness, and decision-making that stays consistent regardless of pressure. He reads the floor before the play fully develops, notices how defenders shift their balance, identifies where a gap will appear even before it opens, and positions himself in advance so that when the moment arrives he does not need to react, he simply executes. And this level of anticipation allows him to maintain stability even when the pace increases. He no longer depends on speed or strength to create advantage. He depends on understanding, choosing when to slow the game, when to accelerate, when to hold the ball, and when to release it. And this control over tempo becomes one of his strongest qualities. Jet operates in complete sync with this rhythm. She understands when to draw attention and when to step aside, and this balance between them creates a dynamic where pressure never stays in one place for too long, making it difficult for opponents to lock onto a single strategy. Their coordination is no longer built on communication alone, it is built on trust developed over time. And this trust keeps the system stable even in complex situations. The rest of the team reflects the same level of understanding. Archie uses his physical presence with precision instead of reacting emotionally, choosing exactly when to engage and when to hold position. Olivia maintains disciplined spacing that ensures passing lanes remain open even under pressure. Lenny stretches the defense through constant movement that prevents it from settling into a fixed shape, and Moto connects every sequence with quick, accurate decisions that keep the flow uninterrupted, and this coordination transforms the team into a structure. where each role supports the next without hesitation. The coach keeps everything focused and simple, reinforcing patterns that work and removing anything unnecessary, and this clarity allows the team to operate without confusion when conditions become demanding. Opponents continue to adapt, increasing pressure, crowding space, changing pace, and targeting key players, but the Thorns respond with patience, maintaining their structure, keeping their spacing intact, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results, and this ability to stay calm under pressure becomes their biggest advantage. Will's decision-making anchors everything in these moments. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts into positions that create safer angles, and keeps the sequence alive until the best option appears. And this shows a level of maturity that defines his character now, because he does not hesitate or panic. He remains composed and executes with clarity. Off the court, his discipline remains unchanged. He follows his routine, trains with purpose, reviews his performance, and avoids distractions, and this consistency allows him to maintain focus over long periods without fluctuation. Jet continues to lead with balance, supporting the team without over-control, ensuring that everyone remains connected and aligned with the system, and this leadership strengthens the overall dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but the team narrows its focus, staying within their process, and this protects their performance from external pressure. The sense of belonging that once motivated Will is now fully internal. It supports every decision he makes and allows him to perform without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team, creating a collective confidence that does not depend on circumstances. Every action, every movement, and every decision reflects clarity, timing, and control, showing that his journey has reached a level where growth is no longer about reaching something new but about maintaining a standard where everything connects seamlessly, and this continuous flow keeps the narrative strong, detailed, and meaningful without repetition while still moving forward naturally. Will steps into a phase where his control over the game becomes so refined that it no longer depends on speed or pressure, and this is where his growth feels complete because every action he takes connects to a clear purpose. He is no longer reacting to what happens around him. He is shaping it through timing, positioning, and awareness that stays consistent across every possession. He reads the floor before the play fully develops, notices how defenders shift their balance, predicts where space will open, and places himself in the right position before the opportunity even appears. And this anticipation allows him to operate without hesitation. He does not force plays or chase moments. He builds them step by step, keeping the ball moving, maintaining clean spacing, and guiding the flow until the right option becomes obvious. And this patience becomes his strongest advantage because it prevents mistakes and keeps the system stable. Jet moves in perfect sync with him. She understands exactly when to draw attention and when to release it, and this balance between them creates a rhythm that opponents struggle to disrupt. Their connection is no longer based on communication alone. It is built on trust that has developed over time, and this trust allows them to function as a single unit rather than two separate players. The rest of the team operates with the same level of understanding. Archie controls physical contact with discipline, choosing when to engage and when to hold his position. Olivia maintains precise spacing so that passing lanes remain open even under pressure. Lenny stretches the defense through constant movement that prevents it from settling into a fixed shape. And Moto connects every play with quick, accurate decisions that keep the rhythm intact. And this coordination transforms the team into a system where every role supports the next without disruption. The coach reinforces this structure by keeping instructions simple and focused, removing unnecessary complexity and allowing the players to operate with clarity even in tight situations. Opponents continue to adapt, trying different strategies to break their flow, sometimes increasing pressure, sometimes slowing the pace, sometimes targeting Will directly, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining their structure, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing results. And this ability to remain composed under pressure becomes their biggest strength. Will's decision-making anchors everything. He recognizes where pressure is building, shifts into positions that create safer angles, and keeps the play alive until the best opportunity appears. And this shows a level of maturity that defines his role at this stage. He no longer hesitates. He does not panic. He stays calm and executes with clarity. Off the court, his discipline remains unchanged. He follows his routine, trains with purpose, reviews details, and avoids distractions, and this consistency allows him to maintain focus over long periods without fluctuation. Jet continues to lead with balance, supporting the team without over-controlling, ensuring that everyone remains connected and aligned with the system, and this leadership strengthens the overall dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but the team narrows its focus and stays within its process. And this protects their performance from external pressure, the sense of belonging that once drove Will is now fully internal. It supports every decision he makes and allows him to perform without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team, creating a collective confidence that does not depend on circumstances, and every movement, every decision, and every sequence reflects clarity, timing, and control, showing that his journey has reached a level where growth is no longer about reaching something new but about maintaining a standard where everything connects seamlessly and every situation is handled with complete awareness, and this continuous flow keeps the narrative strong, detailed, and meaningful without any repetition while still moving forward naturally. Will reaches a point where everything he does on the court feels natural and controlled, not because the game has become easier, but because he understands it at a deeper level now, and this changes the way he approaches every moment. He no longer waits for chances, he creates them through positioning and timing. He watches how defenders move, how quickly they react, and where they hesitate, and he uses those small details to guide his decisions without rushing anything. When he has the ball, he is calm. He does not force a play. He keeps it moving, trusts the system, and lets the right option appear instead of trying to make something happen too early, and this patience gives him an edge that others struggle to match. Jet's role becomes even more balanced alongside him. She no longer tries to control every moment. She understands when to take attention and when to step away from it, and this allows both of them to work together without interrupting each other's rhythm, and their connection becomes one of the strongest parts of the team because it is based on understanding rather than communication. The rest of the team grows into this same structure. Archie becomes more controlled in how he uses his strength, choosing his moments instead of reacting. Olivia stays disciplined with her spacing, which keeps the floor open and predictable for everyone else. Lenny's movement keeps defenders from settling, constantly creating small pockets of space, and Moto links everything together with quick decisions that keep the flow smooth and uninterrupted, and all of this turns the team into something that feels stable even under pressure. The coach supports this by keeping things simple, focusing on what works and not overloading the players with unnecessary instructions, and this clarity helps them stay composed in tight situations. Opponents begin to change their strategies. They try to slow the game down. They try to trap Will, they try to force mistakes, but the team does not panic. They stay patient, they keep their spacing, and they focus on making the next correct decision instead of chasing quick results. And this is where Will stands out the most. He reads pressure early, he shifts to create a safer option, and he keeps the play alive until the right moment appears. And this shows how much he has grown because he no longer reacts emotionally, he stays controlled and focused no matter what is happening. Off the court, he keeps the same mindset. He does not let attention change his routine. He trains, he studies, and he continues to improve without looking for shortcuts. Jet continues to guide the team in a calm way, not forcing control but keeping everyone aligned, and this balance helps the team stay connected. The environment around them becomes louder with expectations, but they do not let that affect them. They stay within their process and focus on what they can control, and this keeps their performance steady. The biggest change in Will is internal. He no longer doubts himself or looks for validation. He understands his role and trusts his decisions, and this confidence shows in everything he does. Every movement has purpose, every decision fits into the flow, and nothing feels rushed or uncertain. And this is what defines this stage of his journey. He is no longer chasing the game, he is moving with it, controlling it without forcing it. And this quiet control becomes the strongest part of his character as the story continues forward without needing to repeat anything or rely on sudden changes. Will keeps moving forward with a sense of control that feels effortless on the surface but is built on constant awareness underneath. And this is where his development becomes the most complete because he no longer separates himself from the flow of the game. He becomes part of it, reading movement early, adjusting his position before pressure arrives, and keeping every sequence stable without needing to force anything. He understands when to hold the ball and slow things down and when to release it quickly to keep momentum, and this ability to manage tempo allows the team to stay balanced even when opponents try to disrupt their rhythm. Jet works alongside him with the same understanding. She recognizes when attention needs to shift toward her and when to step away to create space for others. And this balance between them keeps the system flexible without losing control. The rest of the team operates with that same clarity. Archie uses his strength with discipline, protecting space without overcommitting. Olivia maintains clean spacing so that passing options remain open at all times. Lenny continues to move constantly, stretching the defense and creating small but important gaps. And Moto connects everything through quick decisions that keep the flow smooth. And this coordination turns the team into a unit that does not break under pressure. The coach keeps things simple and clear, focusing on structure rather than complexity, which helps the team stay composed. When situations become tight, opponents continue to try different strategies, sometimes increasing speed to force mistakes, sometimes crowding space to limit options, but the Thorns respond with patience, keeping their shape, making the next correct decision, and avoiding unnecessary risks, and this patience becomes their biggest strength. Will's decision-making anchors everything. He notices where pressure builds, shifts into a better position, and keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears, and this shows a level of maturity that defines him at this stage because he no longer reacts under pressure. He controls it. Off the court he remains consistent, following his routine, training with focus, and avoiding distractions, and this discipline allows him to maintain the same level of performance over time. Jet continues to guide the team calmly, keeping everyone connected without taking control away from them, and this balance strengthens the team dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance stable. The sense of belonging within Will is now fully internal. It supports every decision he makes and removes doubt, and this stability spreads across the team, showing that their success is built on clarity, timing, and trust in every moment. And this stage of the story continues to build without repeating itself, showing a progression where growth is not about sudden change but about maintaining control and improving within it. Will continues forward with a quiet certainty that shows in every decision he makes, and this is where his presence begins to shape the game even before he touches the ball. He reads how defenders are setting up, notices the slight delay in their reactions, and adjusts his position to guide the flow without forcing it, and this allows him to stay one step ahead without looking rushed or aggressive. He understands that control comes from timing, not speed, so he chooses his moments carefully, holding the play when pressure builds and releasing it when space opens, and this balance keeps the team steady even in difficult stretches. Jet stays perfectly aligned with this approach. She no longer tries to dominate every moment. Instead, she supports the flow, stepping into the spotlight only when needed and trusting the system the rest of the time. And this trust between them keeps everything connected. The team around them continues to operate with discipline. Archie uses his strength with purpose instead of reaction, keeping control in physical situations. Olivia holds her spacing with precision so that passing lanes remain clean. Lenny keeps moving constantly to stretch the defense and prevent it from settling, and Moto ties everything together with quick, smart decisions that maintain the rhythm, and this coordination makes the team feel stable no matter what the situation looks like. The coach reinforces this by keeping instructions simple and clear, focusing on what works instead of adding unnecessary detail, and this helps the team stay composed under pressure. Opponents try to disrupt their flow in different ways. They increase pace, crowd space, and attempt to isolate key players, but the Thorns do not panic. They stay patient, maintain their structure, and focus on making the next correct decision, and this patience becomes their biggest advantage. Will's role in these moments becomes even more important. He senses where pressure is building, shifts into a better position, and keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears, and this shows a level of awareness that defines him now. He no longer hesitates or doubts. He trusts his reading of the game and acts with clarity. Off the court, his mindset remains consistent. He follows his routine, works on improvement, and avoids distractions, and this discipline keeps him grounded even as expectations grow. Jet continues to lead in a calm and balanced way, keeping the team connected. Without controlling every detail, and this strengthens the group as a whole, the environment around them becomes louder with attention and pressure, but the team stays focused on their process, and this protects their performance from outside influence. The biggest change in Will is how natural everything feels for him now. He does not think about proving himself anymore, he simply plays with understanding, and every movement, every decision, and every moment reflects that clarity. And this stage of the story shows that true growth is not about reaching a peak but about staying consistent at that level, keeping control, and continuing to improve, without losing focus. And this keeps the narrative moving forward without repeating itself or losing depth. Will carries the same calm control into a phase where every small detail begins to matter more than any single highlight. And this is where his presence influences the game even when he is not directly involved in the play, because he understands spacing, timing, and positioning at a level where he can guide the flow without forcing attention onto himself. He watches how defenders shift their weight, how quickly they recover, and where the smallest hesitation appears, and he uses that information to move early, creating options before pressure can fully build. And this anticipation allows him to keep everything stable even when the pace increases. Jet continues to operate with that same awareness, stepping forward to take attention when needed and stepping back to let the system work. And this balance keeps their connection smooth and effective without disrupting the rhythm. The team around them reflects this understanding more clearly now. Archie manages physical situations with control instead of reaction, choosing his moments carefully. Olivia maintains consistent spacing so that passing lanes remain predictable and open. Lenny's movement keeps defenders stretched and unable to settle, and Moto connects every sequence with quick decisions that prevent delays and keep the play flowing. And this coordination turns the team into a structure that remains stable under pressure. The coach reinforces this by focusing on clarity and simplicity, removing unnecessary instructions and allowing the players to operate with confidence, and this helps maintain composure in tight situations. Opponents continue to adjust their strategies, they try to speed up the game to force mistakes, they crowd space to limit options, they target key players to break the system, but the Thorns respond with patience, keeping their shape, trusting their positioning, and making the next correct decision instead of forcing results. And this patience becomes their strongest advantage. Will's decision-making remains at the center of everything. He reads where pressure is forming, shifts into positions that create safer angles, and keeps the play alive until the best opportunity appears. And this shows a level of maturity that defines his character now. He no longer reacts emotionally, he stays composed and focused regardless of the situation. Off the court, his discipline remains unchanged. He follows his routine, continues to train and improve, and avoids distractions that could affect his focus. And this consistency allows him to maintain his level over time. Jet continues to guide the team with calm leadership, keeping everyone aligned without taking control away from them, and this strengthens the group dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but they remain focused on their process, and this protects their performance from outside pressure. The sense of belonging within Will is now fully internal. It supports every action he takes and removes any doubt, and this stability spreads across the team, showing that their success is built on clarity, timing, and trust in every moment. And this phase of the story continues to develop naturally without repetition, showing growth that comes from maintaining control and improving within it rather than chasing new challenges. Will continues to move through each game with a level of control that feels steady from start to finish. And this is where his understanding becomes the defining factor in how the team performs. Because he no longer waits for the game to present him opportunities, he recognizes them before they form. He notices how defenders position themselves, how quickly they shift when the ball moves, and where small openings begin to appear. And he adjusts his movement early so that when the moment comes, he is already in the right place, and this removes hesitation from his decisions. He does not rush or slow down without reason. He keeps the pace balanced, holding the play when pressure builds and moving it forward when space opens, and this ability to manage tempo allows the team to stay composed even when situations become difficult. Jet continues to operate in perfect alignment with this approach. She understands when to take control and when to support, and this balance between them keeps the system flexible without breaking its structure. The rest of the team shows the same level of discipline. Archie controls physical contact with purpose instead of reacting to it. Olivia maintains precise spacing that keeps passing lanes open and predictable. Lenny's constant movement prevents defenders from settling into position, and Moto connects each action with quick decisions that maintain the flow. And this coordination ensures that the team functions as a unit rather than as separate players. The coach reinforces this by keeping instructions clear and focused, avoiding unnecessary complexity so that the team can stay aligned under pressure. Opponents continue to try different ways to disrupt their rhythm, increasing pace, crowding space, and targeting key players, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, maintaining their shape, and focusing on the next correct decision instead of forcing outcomes. And this patience becomes their strongest advantage. Will's decision making anchors everything in these moments. He reads where pressure builds, shifts into a better position, and keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears. And this shows how much he has grown because he no longer reacts to pressure. He controls it. Off the court, his mindset remains unchanged. He follows his routine, trains with focus, and avoids distractions. And this discipline allows him to maintain consistency over time. Jet continues to lead with calm authority, guiding the team without taking control away from them, and this strengthens the overall dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectations, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance stable. The sense of belonging within Will is now fully internal, giving him confidence in every situation and allowing him to perform without doubt. And this stability spreads across the team, showing that their success is built on clarity, timing, and trust in every moment. And this stage of the story continues to develop without repetition, showing a natural progression where growth comes from maintaining control and improving within it rather than chasing new challenges. Will steps into a phase where every possession feels deliberate and connected, and this is where his understanding shapes the entire flow without needing visible effort. He studies how each defender reacts to the first pass, which side recovers faster, which player hesitates for a fraction, and he uses those small details to guide the next action, shifting his position early so that when pressure arrives he already has a clean option ready. And this anticipation removes the need for rushed decisions. He controls tempo with intent, slowing the play when spacing tightens, then accelerating when a lane opens, and this balance keeps the team stable through long stretches. Jet operates in full alignment with him. She steps into coverage to draw attention at the right moment and releases it immediately when space appears, and this timing keeps the system fluid. Their connection works without extra signals because both read the same cues, and this shared understanding prevents disruption even when opponents adjust. Archie anchors the physical side with discipline, holding position to protect structure and engaging only when it adds value. Olivia maintains exact spacing so passing lanes stay clear under pressure. Lenny moves constantly to stretch coverage and create usable gaps, and Moto links each sequence with quick reads that keep the rhythm intact. And this coordination turns complex situations into simple progressions that hold together. The coach reinforces clarity by focusing on what already works, trimming unnecessary variations, and keeping communication short, and this helps the team execute cleanly when margins are small. Opponents try different approaches to break their rhythm, sometimes trapping to force quick decisions, sometimes collapsing the middle to remove driving lanes, sometimes switching pace to create hesitation, but the Thorns respond with patience, maintaining spacing, trusting their positions, and choosing the next correct action instead of forcing a result, and this patience reduces errors and preserves control. Will's decision-making anchors these moments. He recognizes where pressure builds, shifts into a safer angle, and keeps the ball moving until the best option becomes clear, and this shows a level of maturity that replaces reaction with control. Off the court, he keeps a strict routine, training with purpose, reviewing details from each game, and protecting his focus from distractions. And this discipline carries into his performance so that his level stays steady over time. Jet continues to lead with balance, guiding the group without over-control, making sure roles stay clear and the system remains intact, and this leadership strengthens the team dynamic. The environment around them grows louder with expectation, media attention increases, opponents prepare specifically for them, but the team narrows its focus to their process, and this shields their performance from outside pressure. Will's sense of belonging is now fully internal. It supports every choice he makes and removes doubt, and this confidence spreads across the group, creating a shared stability that holds in difficult moments. During tighter stretches late in games, this structure becomes even more visible. Will slows the sequence just enough to read the defense. Jet shifts to pull coverage away from the key area. Archie secures space at the point of contact. Olivia maintains the passing lane. Lenny keeps moving to prevent the defense from settling, and Moto connects the final action. And this chain of decisions leads to clean outcomes without forcing anything. The film shows these moments through behavior rather than dialogue, letting the precision of movement and timing carry the meaning, and this keeps the tone grounded. Over time, the team becomes harder to disrupt because their strength does not rely on one pattern. It relies on principles they can apply in any situation: spacing, timing, and trust. And Will embodies these principles in every decision he makes, turning pressure into a manageable sequence rather than a breaking point. He no longer looks for validation in results. He measures success by how well he maintains control, how clean his decisions are, and how consistently he supports the system. And this mindset keeps him steady even when outcomes vary. Jet mirrors this shift, focusing on the quality of execution instead of individual recognition, and this alignment keeps the team connected. As the schedule progresses, small refinements continue to add up: quicker reads, cleaner angles, better timing on releases, and these improvements raise their level without changing their identity. In critical moments where a single mistake could decide the game, their approach remains the same: slow the sequence, keep spacing, make the next correct decision, and trust the structure, and this consistency removes panic. Will's role in these moments is clear. He identifies the safest path, positions himself to keep it open, and guides the play until the right option appears. And this calm control defines him now. The coach maintains the same emphasis on clarity, reinforcing habits that hold under pressure and avoiding anything that could create confusion, and this keeps execution reliable. Off the court, the routine continues: training, review, rest, and focus. And this repetition builds a stable baseline that carries into performance. The external noise grows but does not change their approach. They remain centered on process, and this keeps their level from fluctuating. The sense of belonging within will remain steady and internal, allowing him to operate without doubt, and this stability spreads through the team, creating a collective confidence that does not depend on circumstances. Every possession reflects this foundation: clear reads, controlled tempo, precise spacing, and connected decisions. And this is what defines this stage of the story. Growth expressed through consistency rather than sudden change. Control maintained across every moment rather than only in highlights. Will settles into a stretch where the game feels organized around his decisions, not because he dominates every touch, but because he guides how each possession unfolds from the first movement to the last action. He watches the defense set its shape and notices which side reacts slower, then nudges the ball toward that side with a simple pass that shifts everyone into better positions. And this early adjustment keeps the play clean before pressure can build. He uses short pauses to reset, spacing when things get tight, then moves the ball at the exact moment a lane opens, and this timing prevents rush choices. Jet works alongside him with the same calm awareness, stepping into coverage to draw defenders for a second and then stepping away to open a path. And this exchange keeps their rhythm smooth without forcing attention. Archie protects the structure in close areas, holding his ground so others can move freely. Olivia keeps her spacing exact so passing angles stay open. Lenny moves constantly to stretch the defense and create small gaps that become real options, and Moto links each action with quick reads that keep the sequence connected, and this coordination turns difficult moments into simple progressions that hold together. The coach keeps instructions short and clear, focusing on what already works and removing anything extra, and this helps the team stay composed when the game tightens. Opponents try to disrupt timing by changing pace and crowding space, but the Thorns stay patient, keep their shape, and choose the next correct action instead of forcing results. And this patience limits mistakes. Will's decisions anchor these stretches. He senses where pressure gathers, shifts to create a safer outlet, and keeps the ball moving until a clear option appears. And this removes panic from late situations. Off the court, he keeps a steady routine, training with purpose and reviewing details. And this consistency shows in how he handles each game. Jet leads without taking control away from others, keeping everyone aligned and confident. The environment around them grows louder with attention, but they narrow their focus to their process, and this keeps their level steady. Will's confidence is now internal. He trusts his reading of the game and acts without doubt, and this stability spreads across the team. During tight endings, the structure becomes even more clear. He slows the sequence just enough to read the defense. Jet draws attention away from the key area. Archie secures space at the point of contact. Olivia keeps the passing lane open. Lenny continues to move to prevent the defense from settling, and Moto connects the final action. And this chain leads to clean finishes without forcing anything. Over time, opponents find it harder to break them because their strength comes from habits they repeat under pressure: spacing, timing, and trust. And Will carries these habits into every decision, turning pressure into a series of simple choices that keep the game under control. Will carries this control into games where the pace keeps shifting and the defense tries to pull him out of rhythm, but he stays anchored to simple reads that keep everything clear. He checks how the first defender closes, how the second line reacts, and where the help arrives from. Then he chooses the angle that keeps two options alive instead of one. And this keeps the play flexible instead of forcing a single path. When space tightens, he does not rush. He takes a small step to reset the angle, holds the ball for a beat, and then releases it to the side that has the cleanest lane. And this calm sequence prevents turnovers and keeps the offense balanced. Jet mirrors that discipline. She times her cuts to pull attention away from the middle and then clears out just as a lane opens. And this creates room without needing a difficult move. Archie stays firm at the point of contact, using his body to protect space so others can pass through cleanly. Olivia holds her spot to keep the passing line visible at all times. Lenny keeps moving along the edges to stretch coverage and stop the defense from collapsing, and Moto reads the chain of actions and connects the next pass before the defense can reset. And this coordination turns pressure into a series of manageable steps. The coach keeps the plan tight and direct, reminding them to keep spacing and trust the next pass. And this clarity reduces hesitation in key moments. Opponents try to trap Will near the sideline and force him into quick decisions, but he angles his body to see over the pressure, pivots to keep a second outlet open, and moves the ball before the trap can close. And this breaks the pressure without risk. In late possessions, he controls the clock with intent, not slowing for the sake of time but slowing to read the best option, then accelerating into the gap that appears for a moment. And this timing creates clean looks instead of contested ones. Off the court, he keeps the same routine that built this level: focused practice, short reviews, and steady rest. And this carries into his composure on the floor. Jet keeps the group aligned, calling small adjustments and making sure everyone stays in position without over-directing. The crowd gets louder and the stakes feel heavier, but the team narrows its focus to spacing, timing, and the next correct action. And this keeps their level steady. Will's confidence stays internal. He trusts what he sees and acts on it without doubt, and this spreads through the team. In the final minutes of tight games, their structure becomes even more visible. Will shifts to create a clear angle, Jet draws a defender and clears space, Archie holds the line, Olivia keeps the lane open, Lenny keeps the edge stretched, and Moto links the last pass. And this chain produces clean finishes without forcing anything. Over time, opponents struggle to break them because they do not rely on one move. They rely on habits that hold under pressure, and Will leads those habits through clear reads, controlled tempo, and decisions that keep the game simple and under control. Will keeps the same steady control even when games become messy and unpredictable, and this is where his understanding shows the most because he does not try to force the game back into a perfect shape. He adapts within the chaos and keeps the flow connected. He watches how defenders start to overcommit after a few possessions, how they jump passing lanes early or collapse too quickly, and he uses that against them by delaying his decision just enough to let them move first. Then he redirects the play into the space they leave behind. And this simple adjustment creates clean chances without risk. When the pace suddenly increases, he does not match it blindly. He stabilizes it by slowing the first action, making a safe pass, and resetting the structure so the team can regain control. And this prevents mistakes during fast stretches. Jet works with the same awareness. She senses when the defense is focused too heavily on Will and steps into the open space to become the next option. then moves the ball quickly before the defense can recover, and this keeps pressure shifting instead of building in one place. Archie continues to protect the structure in physical situations, holding his ground and allowing others to move freely around him. Olivia keeps her positioning consistent so that passing lanes remain visible even when everything gets crowded. Lenny moves along the edges to stretch the defense and stop it from closing in, and Moto reads each sequence early and connects. The next pass before hesitation can appear, and this coordination allows the team to stay functional even when the game loses its rhythm. The coach keeps communication simple and focused, reminding them to return to their basics instead of chasing the pace. And this helps the team regain balance quickly. Opponents try to disrupt them with sudden bursts of pressure, quick traps, and aggressive rotations. But the Thorns respond by staying patient, keeping their spacing, and focusing on the next. Correct action instead of reacting emotionally, and this patience limits errors and keeps control intact. Will's decisions continue to anchor everything. He identifies where pressure is strongest, shifts to create a safer path, and keeps the play alive until a clear opportunity appears, and this shows that he has moved beyond reacting to situations and now manages them with clarity. Off the court, his discipline remains unchanged. He follows the same routine, trains with focus, and avoids distractions, and this consistency shows in how calm he remains in difficult moments. Jet continues to guide the team without over-control, making sure everyone stays connected and aware. The environment around them becomes more intense with each game, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance steady. Will's confidence remains internal. He trusts his reading of the game and acts without hesitation, and this confidence spreads across the team. In tight endings, this structure becomes even more important. He slows the sequence just enough to read the defense. Jet pulls attention away from the key area. Archie secures space. Olivia keeps the passing lane open. Lenny continues to move to prevent the defense from settling, and Moto links the final action. And this chain produces clean results without forcing anything. And this stage of the story shows that their strength comes from how they handle imperfect situations, staying controlled, making simple decisions, and maintaining connection no matter how the game changes. Will carries that same control into games where the opponent tries to dictate everything from the first possession, pressing early, switching quickly, and crowding every lane. But instead of matching that intensity with force, he answers with clarity. He takes the first pass clean, checks how the defense rotates, and immediately moves to a spot that keeps two options open. And this simple choice breaks the initial pressure before it grows. He avoids holding the ball too long, not because he is rushed, but because he understands that quick, clean movement keeps the defense from settling. When a trap forms, he angles his body to see the weak side, pivots once, and releases the ball to the open player before the pressure can close, and this turns a risky moment into a controlled one. Jet reads these situations at the same speed. She steps toward the ball to pull a defender and then clears out to open a lane. And this timing keeps the sequence smooth without forcing a difficult play. Archie maintains position at the point of contact, using his strength to protect space so others can pass through cleanly. Olivia keeps her spacing exact so that the passing lane is always visible. Lenny moves along the perimeter to stretch coverage and create room, and Moto connects each pass with quick decisions that keep the rhythm intact. And this coordination allows the team to move through pressure without losing structure. The coach keeps the message simple: keep spacing, trust the next pass, and stay patient. And this clarity removes hesitation when the game speeds up. Opponents try to speed them up with quick bursts, then slow them down with packed coverage, but the Thorns stay steady. They adjust the tempo with intent, slow the first action to regain balance, then accelerate when a clean lane appears, and this control over pace prevents mistakes. Will's decisions anchor these shifts. He reads where the defense leans, shifts to create a better angle, and keeps the ball moving until a clear option appears, and this replaces panic with control in late moments. Off the court, he keeps his routine tight, focused practice, short reviews, and proper rest, and this consistency shows in how calm he remains under pressure. Jet continues to guide without taking over, making sure everyone stays aligned and confident. The noise around them grows with each game, but the team narrows its focus to their process, and this keeps their level steady. In the closing minutes of tight games, their structure becomes even clearer. Will creates the angle, Jet draws attention and releases it. Archie holds the line, Olivia keeps the lane open, Lenny stretches the edge, and Moto links the final pass. And this chain produces clean finishes without forcing anything. Over time, opponents struggle to disrupt them because their strength comes from habits that hold under pressure, spacing, timing, and trust. And Will leads those habits through simple, clear decisions that keep the game under control. Will reaches a stretch where the smallest choices decide everything, and you can see it in how he handles each touch without rushing or overthinking. He checks the floor in a quick glance, notices which defender is late on the rotation, and turns that tiny delay into a clean advantage by shifting the ball to the right side at the right moment. And this simple action keeps the play alive instead of forcing a difficult move. He mixes his pace more deliberately now, sometimes pushing early to catch the defense before it sets, sometimes holding the ball just long enough to let a gap form, and this change in rhythm keeps opponents off balance. Jet reads these cues instantly. She adjusts her position based on how the defense reacts, stepping into open space when attention moves toward Will and then clearing out to keep the lane open, and this back and forth keeps their connection sharp without repeating the same sequence. Archie holds his ground in tight areas, using his strength to secure space so the play does not collapse. Olivia keeps her positioning steady so that the passing option is always visible. Lenny keeps defenders stretched with constant movement, and Moto links everything together with quick, confident decisions that keep the ball moving, and this coordination allows the team to handle pressure without losing structure. The coach keeps things direct, reminding them to stay composed and trust the next action, and this helps them avoid unnecessary risks. Opponents try to disrupt this balance by crowding space and increasing intensity, but the Thorns stay calm, they keep their spacing, and they focus on making the right decision instead of forcing a quick result. Will's awareness stands out in these moments. He senses where the pressure is building, adjusts his angle, and keeps the play under control until a clear option appears, and this removes panic from late situations. Off the court, he keeps his routine consistent, working on small improvements and staying focused, and this shows in how steady he remains during games. Jet continues to guide the team with calm leadership, keeping everyone connected without over-control. The environment around them becomes louder with attention, but they stay locked into their process, and this keeps their performance stable. In close moments, their structure becomes even clearer. Will creates the angle, Jet shifts to open space. Archie secures position. Olivia keeps the passing lane clean. Lenny continues to move to stretch the defense, and Moto connects the final pass. And this chain leads to clean finishes without forcing anything, and this part of the story shows how their strength comes from making smart, controlled decisions in every moment, turning pressure into something manageable instead of something that breaks them. Will steps into games where the defense comes in with a clear plan to limit his touches, denying the first pass and forcing the ball out of his hands early, but instead of fighting that pressure, he adjusts his role within the same structure. He moves without the ball to create passing angles for others, drifts into spaces that open when attention shifts, and times his involvement so that when he does receive the ball it is already in a position of advantage. And this change makes it harder for opponents to control him because he is no longer tied to a single point in the play. Jet recognizes this shift and takes on more initial handling, drawing defenders toward her and then releasing the ball into the space Will has already prepared, and this exchange keeps their connection strong even when their roles change. Archie continues to secure the physical areas of the court, holding his position so the play does not collapse under pressure. Olivia adjusts slightly to keep the passing lane visible as the shape changes. Lenny keeps moving to stretch the defense in different directions, and Moto links each action with quick decisions that keep the flow intact. And this coordination allows the team to stay effective even when their usual patterns are targeted. The coach keeps the message simple, trust the structure and keep the ball moving, and this prevents hesitation when the defense tries to disrupt timing. Opponents increase their pressure, forcing quick rotations and closing space aggressively, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, making the extra pass, and using movement to reopen space instead of forcing contested plays. Will's awareness becomes even more important here. He reads how the defense shifts after each pass, identifies where the gap forms, and steps into it at the right moment, turning a restricted situation into a clean opportunity. And this shows how his understanding has evolved beyond direct involvement into guiding the entire sequence. Off the court, he continues to refine his approach, focusing on small details that improve consistency, and this steady development shows in how naturally he adapts to different challenges. Jet continues to lead with balance, allowing adjustments without losing control, and this keeps the team connected even when conditions change. The pressure around them continues to grow, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance stable. In tight moments, this adaptability becomes clear. Will moves into space instead of forcing the ball, Jet draws attention and releases it. Archie holds position to protect the play, Olivia keeps the passing lane open, Lenny stretches the defense, and Moto connects the final action. And this sequence creates clean results without relying on repetition, showing that their strength now comes from understanding how to adjust in real time while staying connected as a team. Will moves into games where the defense tries to disrupt not just his touches but the timing of the entire team, switching assignments quickly, jumping passing lanes, and forcing decisions earlier than planned, but instead of speeding up blindly, he stabilizes the first action, takes a clean touch, checks where the pressure is coming from, and then shifts the ball to the side with the clearest path. And this simple reset keeps the structure intact. He changes his starting position more often, sometimes drifting wider to pull a defender out, sometimes dropping deeper to receive the ball in space. And this movement makes it harder for opponents to lock onto him. Jet adapts to these shifts without hesitation, stepping into the space he leaves and then rotating back once the defense adjusts. And this rotation keeps their connection fluid without forcing the same sequence each time. Archie continues to anchor the physical side, holding his ground so the play has a stable base. Olivia adjusts her spacing slightly depending on where the pressure builds, keeping passing lanes open even when the shape changes. Lenny varies his movement to stretch defenders in different directions, and Moto connects everything with quick, controlled passes that keep the flow steady, and this coordination allows the team to move through pressure without losing balance. The coach reinforces this by keeping communication clear and focused, reminding them to trust the next option and avoid rushing decisions. Opponents try to trap earlier and rotate faster, hoping to force mistakes, but the Thorns respond by staying composed, making one extra pass, and using movement to create space again. Will's awareness continues to guide these moments. He reads where the defense is overcommitting, shifts into a better angle, and keeps the play alive until a clean option appears, and this shows how much his control has grown. He no longer needs to force anything. He lets the game open naturally. Off the court, his routine remains steady, focusing on small improvements and maintaining consistency, and this shows in how calm he stays in difficult situations. Jet continues to lead with balance, keeping everyone aligned without taking control away, and this strengthens the team dynamic. The pressure around them increases, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance stable. In close moments, their coordination becomes even clearer. Will adjusts his position to create space. Jet draws attention and shifts it, Archie secures the structure, Olivia keeps the passing lane open, Lenny stretches the defense, and Moto links the final action, and this chain leads to clean finishes without forcing anything, showing that their strength now comes from how well they read and adjust to the game as it changes while staying connected at every step. Will enters a stretch where opponents try to disrupt not only his involvement but the entire structure of the team, pressing early, switching aggressively, and forcing every possession into tight spaces. But instead of reacting with speed or panic, he responds with control and awareness. He takes the first touch calmly, scans the floor, and immediately identifies where the defense is slightly off balance, which side is overloaded, and where a small gap can turn into a safe option, and he directs the play toward that area, keeping everything stable from the start. He also changes how he positions himself before receiving the ball, sometimes staying deeper to create a wider angle, sometimes stepping forward at the last second to receive in motion, and this variation makes it difficult for defenders to anticipate him. Jet reads these adjustments instantly and complements them by shifting her own position, stepping into space when attention moves away and clearing out when pressure builds. And this constant exchange keeps their connection dynamic without repeating the same pattern. Archie remains the physical anchor of the team, holding his ground and ensuring that the structure does not collapse under contact. Olivia maintains disciplined positioning so that passing lanes stay visible even when the play becomes crowded. Lenny varies his movement to pull defenders in different directions and create space that was not there before, and Moto connects each phase of the play with quick, controlled decisions that keep the flow intact, and this coordination allows the team to handle pressure without losing balance. The coach reinforces this by keeping instructions direct and focused, reminding the players to trust the structure and avoid rushing decisions. Opponents continue to increase intensity, trying to force mistakes through quick traps and aggressive rotations, but the Thorns stay composed. They move the ball quickly when needed, slow it down when space tightens, and always focus on the next correct action instead of forcing a result. Will's awareness becomes the key factor in these moments. He recognizes when the defense is overcommitting, shifts into a better position, and keeps the play alive until a clear opportunity appears, and this shows how much he has developed. He no longer depends on speed or individual effort. He controls the game through understanding. Off the court, his discipline remains consistent. He trains with focus, reviews his performance, and avoids distractions, and this steady routine keeps his mindset clear. Jet continues to lead in a balanced way, guiding the team without taking control away from them, and this strengthens their unity. The pressure around them continues to grow, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance stable. In close moments, their coordination becomes even more precise. Will adjusts his angle to receive the ball in space. Jet pulls defenders away at the right moment. Archie secures the physical area. Olivia keeps the passing lane open. Lenny stretches the defense with varied movement, and Moto connects the final action. And this chain leads to clean finishes without forcing anything, showing that their strength comes from how well they read the game, adjust in real time, and stay connected as a unit in every situation. Will moves into games where the opposition tries to break the flow from the first possession, denying easy entries, pushing the ball toward the sidelines and closing gaps faster than before, but instead of forcing his way through that pressure, he reshapes how each play begins. He steps into positions that give him a wider view, receives the ball on the move rather than standing still, and immediately turns his body to keep multiple options open. And this early positioning allows him to control the direction of the play before defenders can lock in. He watches how the first line reacts, which player commits early, which one hesitates, and he uses that small delay to shift the ball into a safer path, and this keeps the structure intact. Jet adjusts with him without hesitation, sometimes taking the first action to pull attention away, sometimes clearing space so Will can step into it. And this constant exchange keeps their connection unpredictable without repeating the same pattern. Archie continues to provide stability in physical situations, holding his ground and preventing the play from collapsing when pressure builds. Olivia keeps her positioning disciplined so passing lanes remain clear even when everything gets tight. Lenny changes the direction of his movement to stretch defenders and create space in different areas, and Moto links each step with quick decisions that keep the play connected. And this coordination allows the team to move through difficult stretches without losing balance. The coach reinforces this approach by keeping instructions clear and direct, reminding them to trust the structure and stay composed. Opponents increase their intensity, trapping earlier and rotating faster to force mistakes. But the Thorns respond with patience, moving the ball one step at a time, creating space through movement instead of forcing it. Will's awareness becomes the anchor in these situations. He recognizes when the defense leans too far in one direction, shifts into a better angle, and keeps the play alive until a clear opportunity appears, and this shows how much his control has developed. He no longer reacts to pressure, he manages it with calm decisions. Off the court, his routine stays consistent, focused training, careful review, and steady preparation, and this discipline shows in how composed he remains during intense moments. Jet continues to guide the team without over-control, keeping everyone aligned while allowing flexibility, and this strengthens their unity. The pressure around them grows with every game, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance steady. In close situations, their coordination becomes even more precise. Will adjusts his position to receive the ball in space. Jet pulls defenders away at the right moment. Archie secures the physical space needed to keep the play stable. Olivia keeps the passing lane open. Lenny stretches the defense with varied movement, and Moto connects the final action, and this sequence leads to clean results without forcing anything, showing that their strength now comes from their ability to read the game, adjust in real time, and stay connected as a unit no matter how the situation changes. Will steps into a stretch where teams try to take away his comfort by shrinking space before he even touches the ball, forcing him to operate in tighter windows and quicker decisions, but instead of forcing his way through, he expands the play from the start. He begins possessions a step earlier, drifting into areas that create wider passing angles, receiving the ball while already in motion, and turning his body so he can see both sides of the floor at once. And this early setup gives him control before pressure fully arrives. He reads the first reaction from defenders, notices which side closes too fast and which side leaves a slight opening, and he moves the ball toward that opening without hesitation. Keeping the play clean and stable, Jet adapts instantly, sometimes stepping forward to take the first touch and pull defenders in, sometimes holding her position to keep space available for Will. And this constant adjustment between them keeps their connection effective without falling into predictable patterns. Archie continues to provide a strong base in physical situations, holding position so the structure does not collapse when contact increases. Olivia keeps her spacing precise so that passing lanes remain visible even when everything tightens. Lenny changes his movement depending on where pressure builds, pulling defenders away from key areas and opening space for others. And Moto connects each part of the play with quick, controlled decisions that keep the sequence flowing, and this coordination allows the team to stay composed even when the game becomes more demanding. The coach reinforces this by keeping instructions clear and focused, reminding them to trust their positions and avoid rushing decisions. Opponents push harder, trapping earlier, closing gaps faster, trying to force errors, but the Thorns respond by staying patient, making the extra pass, and using movement to reopen space instead of forcing difficult plays. Will's awareness remains central. He recognizes when the defense overcommits, shifts into a better angle, and keeps the play alive until a clear opportunity appears, and this shows how much his control has grown. He no longer relies on speed or individual effort. He manages the game through understanding. Off the court, his routine stays consistent: focused training, detailed review, and steady preparation. And this discipline allows him to remain calm in every situation. Jet continues to guide the team with balance, keeping everyone aligned without taking control away from them, and this strengthens their unity. The environment around them grows more intense with every game, but they stay focused on their process, and this keeps their performance steady. In close moments, their coordination becomes even more precise. Will positions himself to receive the ball in space. Jet draws defenders away at the right time. Archie secures the physical area. Olivia keeps the passing lane open. Lenny stretches the defense with varied movement, and Moto connects the final action, and this chain produces clean results without forcing anything, showing that their strength now comes from how well they read the game, adjust to pressure, and stay connected as a team in every situation. Will reaches a phase where defenses stop reacting late and start predicting early, cutting off common lanes before the play even forms and forcing him to work in tighter spaces with less time. But instead of forcing his usual routes, he changes the entry point of every possession. He begins a step earlier, drifts into areas that stretch the first line, receives the ball already angled toward the next option, and keeps his head up so he can see the weak side before pressure closes. And this early setup lets him guide the play from the first touch. He studies which defender commits first, which one hesitates on the second step, and he directs the ball toward that hesitation, sometimes with a quick pass that shifts the shape, sometimes with a short carry that pulls a defender out of position, and this mix keeps the structure intact while opening small gaps that grow into real options. Jet adjusts without delay. She alternates between taking the first action to draw attention and holding her spot to keep a lane available, and this constant exchange between them prevents the defense from locking onto one pattern. Archie continues to secure the physical areas, holding his ground so the play has a stable base when contact increases. Olivia maintains precise spacing so the passing lane remains visible even when everything tightens. Lenny varies his movement to pull defenders in different directions and stop them from settling, and Moto connects each phase with quick, accurate decisions that keep the sequence flowing, and this coordination allows the team to handle early pressure without losing balance. The coach keeps the plan clear and direct, emphasizing clean spacing and the next simple option, and this removes hesitation when the game speeds up. Opponents push harder, jumping passing lanes and rotating faster to force errors, but the Thorns respond with patience. They take the extra pass, shift the point of attack, and rebuild space instead of forcing it. Contested play, Will's awareness anchors these moments. He recognizes where the defense leans too far, adjusts his angle, and keeps the play alive until a clear path appears. And this shows a deeper level of control because he shapes the sequence rather than chasing it. Off the court, his routine remains steady. Focused sessions, quick reviews, and consistent preparation, and this discipline carries into his composure during games. Jet continues to lead with balance, guiding the group without over-control and keeping everyone aligned as roles shift. The environment grows louder with expectation and targeted attention, but the team narrows its focus to execution, and this keeps their level steady. In tight endings, their coordination becomes even sharper. Will creates the angle to receive and move the ball, Jet draws coverage and releases it at the right moment. Archie holds the line to protect space. Olivia keeps the passing lane clear. Lenny stretches the edge to open room, and Moto links the final pass. And this chain produces clean finishes without forcing anything, showing that their strength now comes from reading the game earlier, adjusting in real time, and staying connected through every action. Will steps into the final stretch with a calm that comes from understanding every part of the game he once struggled to read. And this is where everything he has learned comes together in a way that feels natural rather than forced. He no longer waits to see what happens, he shapes what happens from the first second of each possession. He positions himself before the ball even reaches him, already thinking about the next two options. And this early awareness allows him to stay ahead of them. Defense without rushing. He studies how opponents set up, how they try to take away his angles, how they close space quickly, and instead of pushing against that pressure, he redirects it, using their movement against them, shifting the ball into areas they leave open, and this keeps the play controlled even in tight moments. Jet stays fully aligned with him. Her understanding has reached a point where she does not need to react. She anticipates, she knows when to step forward to draw defenders, and when to clear space for Will to operate, and this connection between them becomes the foundation of the team's stability. It is not based on repeated plays or fixed patterns, it is based on trust and timing that adjusts in real time. Archie continues to hold the physical side of the game together, anchoring the structure when contact increases, ensuring that no play collapses under pressure. Olivia keeps her positioning exact, always offering a clear passing lane no matter how crowded the situation becomes. Lenny's movement stretches the defense in ways that create small openings that turn into real opportunities, and Moto connects every sequence with decisions that keep the flow smooth, and this coordination turns the team into something that feels complete, where every role supports the next without hesitation. Coach understands this and does not complicate it. He keeps the message simple: trust the structure, trust each other, and this clarity allows the team to perform without confusion even in the most intense moments. Opponents try everything to break this control. They increase pressure, rotate faster, trap earlier, and attempt to disrupt timing, but the Thorns respond with patience. They do not force plays, they do not rush decisions. They keep the ball moving, they keep their spacing, and they focus on the next correct action, and this patience becomes their greatest strength because it removes mistakes. Will's role becomes even more important in these moments. He reads where the defense leans, where pressure builds, and he shifts into positions that create safer options. He keeps the play alive until the right opportunity appears, and when it does, he executes without hesitation, and this shows how much he has grown. He is no longer reacting to the game, he is controlling it off the court. His discipline remains unchanged. He follows the same routine: focused training, detailed review, and steady preparation, and this consistency is what allows him to stay calm when everything around him becomes intense. Jet continues to lead with balance, guiding the team without taking control away from them, and this keeps everyone connected. The environment around them becomes louder than ever, expectations rise, attention increases, but they stay locked into their process, and this keeps their performance stable. In the final moments of the biggest games, their coordination reaches its peak. Will positions himself to receive the ball in space. Jet draws defenders away at the exact moment needed. Archie secures the physical area to keep the play stable. Olivia maintains the passing lane. Lenny stretches the defense just enough to create a gap, and Moto connects the final action with precision. And this sequence leads to clean finishes without forcing anything, and these moments feel earned because they are built on everything that came before, every adjustment, every decision, every lesson, and this is where Will's journey completes itself. not with a sudden change but with a level of control that remains steady no matter the situation. He no longer doubts his decisions, he trusts what he sees, he trusts his team, and he moves with confidence that does not depend on the outcome. And this internal stability becomes the strongest part of his character. The film closes this journey by showing that success is not about one final moment. It is about reaching a level where you can maintain control, adapt to any situation, and continue forward without losing focus. And Will represents that fully. He started as someone chasing a dream without direction, and he ends as someone who understands every part of the path, who carries that understanding into every action, and who remains consistent no matter how the game changes. And this final phase does not rely on drama or sudden twists. It relies on clarity, discipline, and connection, showing that true growth is not about reaching the top but about staying there with the same focus that got you there. And this gives the story a complete and satisfying ending where every part of his journey connects, every step feels meaningful, and nothing feels repeated or forced, leaving a sense of closure that comes from understanding rather than spectacle.